Okay, good morning, friends. We're continuing in Mishnah Daf Yishur. We're learning Siman Kuf Chaf Aleph, Sif Beis, the laws of Maidim, Dine Maidim, Ha'imar Maidim, Meshatkin Oisai. Someone who says Maidim, we silence him. Meshatkim Oisai says Meshvura Af Imloi Hishtach Veshtepam. Even if he only bowed down once, he didn't bow down twice, we still silence him. Uvein lichbal hamilois, uvein lichbal inyan ve'inyan hakol aser, demachzik kishtei rishuyos. Whether to double the words maidim, or whether to double maidim anachnu lach, it's all aser. It looks like two domains. The Dirshu brings, let's say you don't do it consecutively, but you interrupt for some time. He wrote earlier regarding doubling the words by Kriya Shema, that if you wait Ezazman between Kriya Shana Shniya, Ein Meshaskem Oisai. There are other things also that we don't double. The Ramah said earlier in Siman Samach Aleph Sif Yud Beis, not to answer Amen, Amen on one bracha. Also, don't say MS. What if you said Poiseches Yadecha and you were not mechavin the first time? The Ben Ish Chai writes in the Sefer Oid Yosef Chai, don't immediately say Poiseches Yadecha right away. Fine. Now, Sif Gimel. Yachid ein lo yomar berachas kayanim. An individual does not say berachas kayanim. An individual should not say berachas kayanim. Hagav v'chein ikar. That's the ikar. V'chein nira li linhag. This would seem to me the correct custom, the correct practice. Aval minhag apasha enikim, but this is not widespread. Rak afilu yachid oimar so kozman sharoi lenasias kapayim. But even an individual says it so long as he is fit for duchening. But it would not seem to be correct. So now what is he talking about? An individual does not say Berachas Kayanim. Is this talking about Yivarechacha? That you don't say it b'yechidos? You don't say it in the silent Shemana Esrei? Is it talking about that's not Berachas Kayanim. So what is this Berachas Kayanim that the Mechaber says Yachid does not say Berachas Kayanim? Bechlal, a Yisrael never says Berachas Kayanim. So what does this mean? A Kayin by himself? What if you have two people in Shul and one's a Kayin, there's no duchening? Of course not. Doesn't the Mishnah say in Megillah that you need a minyan for Nesias Kapayim? Let's see the Mishnah Berurah. Ve'enoi nera, mikomakim amar ein machzir noisai, you don't have to go back. V'gam ein limchas v'yad omroi, so you don't have to protest. I guess somebody says in the silent Shemana Esrei like this. Let's say the Chazan usually will say Alakeinu Malkeinu Baruchinu Baruch Amshuleshes Ba'Torah Ksoi De Moshe Avdechom R'V'Yarno V'Nokai Anim Am Kedeshach Kamor. Meaning, let's think about what a Shliach Tzibur normally says. He says, our God and the God of our forefathers, bless us with the way you read it, by the way, is not Baruchinu Ba'Bracha Hamshuleshes Kama Ba'Torah Haksuva Al Yidei Moshe Avdecha, not Baruchinu Ba'Bracha Hamshuleshes Ba'Torah. Okay, that's stam an important thing. Barachinu b'bracha mshuleshes, ba'toira hakesuva al yidei Moshe avdecha. I guess that's what it's referring to. When you daven the silent Shemana Esrei, you do not say Elokai Avosinu barachinu b'bracha mshuleshes. But if you did say it, you don't go back. V'gam ein limchas v'yad omer oisai. Ein loimer Elokai Avosinu b'beis ha'avel. You don't say Elokai Avosinu in the house of mourning. Ken kazav arhetev v'hush b'shurei knesset gdoila b'shem sefer Tanya. This is in the Shur Knesset Gdoila in the name of the Sefer Tanya, not to be confused with the Tanya that you probably heard of. This has nothing to do with Chasidus. The Sefer Tanya is a Sefer from the Rishonim, if I'm not mistaken. It's a some type of version of Sefer Shiboyle Haleket. V'al kein af shabadagel mervava chalak, even though Rabbi Yehuda disagrees, and he says you do say Elokai Makayavasenu in Beis Ha'avel, yesh lacha shedivei rishonim not to say it. The opinion of Chazoinish and the Stipler that you do say Berchas Kainim bebeis ha'evel, that you duchen bebeis ha'avel. The Mishnah Berurah really wasn't talking about it. He was talking about Elokai Avosenu. What about duchening itself? So the Tzadikei B'nai Brak, they say you say it. The Gesher Chaim says Sheb'Yushalayim yesh noagu sha'kohanim olam l'duchen beis ha'evel, like in the Shari Tshuva. And if there are no kohanim, then the Shat says Elokai Avosenu. Reb Chaim Kanievsky explains, when the Mishnah Berurah says we don't say Elokai Avosenu, it means in Chutz La'aretz. In places where the minhag is to duchen bebeis ha'avel, Rav Shlomo Zalman paskind that if the avel himself is the shatz, he should not be the makri to the kohanim. What do they do l'maisa today in Eretz Yisrael bebeis ha'avel? Do they duchen? It depends. Some places yeah, some places no. Why wouldn't you? I guess it would depend on, why do we only duchen at the end of by Musaf? So Ramah says, in other words, what's the problem with saying duchening v'beis ha'avel? L'chayr, the problem, right? What's the problem? The Ramah says in Siman Kuf Chav Ches that the minhag is we only duchen on Yom Tov in Chutz La'aretz. Why? Because then we're happy and we're toiv leiv. But on other days we're upset because time is money. We're losing out on our work. And even Shabbos, people are thinking about their work. And we only do it by Musaf because by Shacharis people are in a lousy mood because davening is still going to take longer. But by Musaf, where you're almost out, the Ramah says, and people are happy that davening is about to be over, so then we could duchen. I'm just telling you what the Ramah said. I'm not saying any, So maybe that's the reason why we don't duchen bebeis ha'avel. I mean, maybe that's, it's not a makam simcha. But this is not like a halachic reason. There's no din. It doesn't say, it's not a halacha that Berchus Kainim has to be besimcha. Anyway,
Shalom and Beis Ha'avel.
What?
You don't say the word shalom. You can't say shalom in the Beis Ha'avel.
You can't. You don't greet someone.
That's the sharpens.
Okay. Yeah, right. You do say Simsham, right? Simin Kuv Chav Beis. Dinim HaShayachim Ben Shmona Esrei Lili Ratzain. The halachas that are relevant between the Amida and Yili Ratzain. In Bala Hafsik V'Lanois Kaddish V'Lekdusha, if you want to interrupt and answer Kaddish, answer Kedusha, Ben Shmona Esrei Lili Ratzain Einoi Poisek. You can't interrupt. Until you say Yil Ratzain, your Shemona Esrei continues. Sheyil Ratzain Meklal Tfilhu. Yil Ratzain is part of Shemona Esrei. Aval bein Yil Ratzain Shar Tachnunim Shaper Dami. Between Yil Ratzain and other supplications, you are allowed to interrupt. Says Ramah, not so fast. V'dafka b'makam shenoyagem loimer Yil Ratzain miyad achar tefillah. This din that you can't interrupt after Shemona Esrei, before Yil Ratzain, is only in a place where the minhag is to say Yil Ratzain right after davening. Avamakim Shnagin Lamer Tachnunim Kaidim Yil Ratzain, in a place where the minhag is to say Tachnunim before Yil Ratzain, Mafsik Gamkein LeKadosh Kedusha. Then you're allowed to interrupt for Kaddish and Kedusha. Uvimakaimos Elo Noigim Lahavsik Belekai Netzor Kaidim Yil Ratzain. In these places, the minhag is to be Mafsik in Elokai Netzor before Yil Ratzain. L'chein mafsikin gamken l'kedusha l'kadosh. What does Rama mean? In our places, we're noyeg to be mafsik in Elokai Netzor? Is he saying our minhag is to be mafsik with other tachnunim? Or is he saying our minhag is to be mafsik by saying Elokai Netzor before Yul Ratzain? Therefore, we could be mafsik for Kedusha as well. Is it uvim komisel noyegim lahafsik be Elokai Netzor or be Elokai Netzor? What does the Rama mean? That it's, let's see the Mishnah Berurah. Shaper dami. If you want to interrupt and answer Kaddish Kedusha between Shemona Esrei and Yul Ratzon, you cannot. Yul Ratzon is part of the Tefillah, but between Yul Ratzon and other Tachnunim, it's okay. Hainu demutar afil lanis stam amen. Once you say Yul Ratzon, you could answer a regular amen. V'chol shekin amen de Hakel HaKadosh. Certainly the amen of Hakel HaKadosh, v'shemei Tefillah, v'amen yeshmei Rabba, u'kedusha, u'barchu, v'ha demesayim b'soif hasif. This, that, the Mechaber ends off at the end of the sif, that kederach shamafsik beberchas kriyas shema, that you could be mafsik after Yul Ratzain, like your mafsik beberchas kriyas shema, v'sham eina muter stam amen. There, a stam amen is not muter v'chanal b'siman samach vav. Sham haloi ari baraga loimer tachnunim. The end of the sif, he's talking about someone who frequently says tachnunim. Alkein asam alav keva. Therefore, they become like a fixed part of Shemona Esrei, v'damyan ksas l'Shemona Esrei. But in the Reisha, in the Reisha, the Mechaber is talking about someone who says tachnunim only upon occasion. Al kein ein lahem dimyan l'Shemona Esrei klal. Therefore, it has no comparison to Shemona Esrei at all. Ulefi zeh, according to this, b'medina isenu, in our community, she'Elokai Netzor regilam hakola amrai. Everyone says Elokai Netzor. If you found out somebody did not say Elokai Netzor, you would disqualify them from eating gefilte fish. So in our communities that everyone says Elokai Netzor, ein lahafsik boy l'stam amen. You should not interrupt in Elokai Netzor for a stam amen. Bein koidem she'eschilo, whether before you began Elokai Netzor, bein la be'emtza, or in the middle of Elokai Netzor. So basically, the Mechaber said that after Yul Ratzain, you could answer any amen. However, at the end of the sif, it's mashma, you cannot answer any amen after Yul Ratzain. Only like be'emtza, beberchas kriyas shema. Right here, the Mechaber says shaper dami bein Yul Ratzain l'shar tachnunim. The end of the sif we'll get to tomorrow. The Mechaber says it has a din of beberchas kriyas shema. The answer is, it depends. If you always say tachanunim, even after Yul Ratzain, it is still part of Shemona Esrei. You can't just interrupt for anything. If you just do it upon occasion, then you could interrupt for any response. So now our custom is that we always say Elokai Netzor, and I think what he means by that is even if you say the first Yul Ratzain, you know there's a Yul Ratzain before Elokai Netzor, even if you say that Yul Ratzain, you still cannot just answer for any amen. You could only answer for Kaddish, for Kedusha, for Baruchu, for Amen of Hakel HaKadosh. Because even though you said Yul Ratzain, but the fact that you say steady Tachnunim means you're still tied down to the Shemona Esrei. Sif Katan Beis, the Rama says that that this whole mechaber that you cannot answer for kat, right? The mechaber also said before Yul Ratzain, you can't answer for Kaddish and Kedusha. The mechaber said before Yul Ratzain, you can't answer for Kaddish and Kedusha. Comes the Rama, and the Rama says, but if you always say Tachanunim, that this din that you can't be mafsik before you l'ratzain is if you say l'ratzain right after the tefillah. But if you always say tachnunim before you l'ratzain, you could also be mafsik for kaddish and kedusha. So then it would come out, there's no real difference between whether you say you l'ratzain or not, because beforehand we steadily are mafsik for Elokai Netzor. Afterwards, since we steadily are mafsik for Elokai Netzor, you're still tied down. So let's see the Mishnah Berurah of Katan Beis. In a place where the custom is to always say tachnunim, even if you didn't start it, even, let's say this guy is machmer, always to say Yil Ratzain right after Shemana Esrei. Ve'era loy loymer amen yehishmei rabba ukedusha koidem shamar Yil Ratzain. And it happened that he has the opportunity to say yehishmei rabba and kedusha before Yil Ratzain. Ve'ein loy shus loymer Yil Ratzain, doesn't have time to say Yil Ratzain. Mutter loy lanus, he could answer. Why? Sounds like he could answer because since this guy always says tachnunim before the second Yehi Ratzain, so he's mafsik before the second Yehi Ratzain, then even if he didn't say the first Yehi Ratzain, he could be mafsik for Kaddish and Kedusha. So when we come up with l'chachila yirli zar shaloyav lidei kain, l'chachila you should be careful not to come to this. Ki yesh machmirim b'zeh. There are those who are machmir. So when the Mechaber started off, that if you want to be mafsik for Kaddish Kedusha, you cannot, but after Yil Ratzain and other Tachanunim, you can. That is only if you say Tachanunim infrequently. If you say them regularly, you cannot answer any Amen. You can only answer special things. Before Yil Ratzain, so that's talking about after Yil Ratzain. Before Yil Ratzain, the Mechaber said you can't answer Kaddish and Kedusha. The Rama says, but if you say Elokai Netzor, you could. Tachanunim kaidem. This is going on. B'makom shenagin loimer tachanunim kaidem li ratzain. That if it's in a place where the minhag is to say tachanunim before Yil Ratzain, you could be mafsik. V'toiv loimer Yil Ratzain kaidem ha-tachanunim ve'achareyam. The best thing is to say it right away. Then say Elokai Netzor in your tachanunim, and then say it again. The best thing is to say it twice. In that case, it would not seem to me that there's any difference between before the Yil Ratzain and after in terms of being mafsik. Because beforehand, you can't answer any Amen. Because before the first Yil Ratzain, you can't answer Stam and Amen. You could answer Kaddish and Kedusha because you normally say Tachnunim. And after Yil Ratzain, since you normally say Tachnunim, you can't answer regular Amen. So the way I see it, you're always allowed to answer the important things, and a regular Amen, it seems like you can't answer, irregardless of where you're up to in terms of the Yil Ratzains. Mm-hmm. Okay. The Mishnah Berurah says later on that those who say Yil Ratzain before Elokai Netzor should do so mincha and erev Yom Kippur, and on Yom Kippur should say Yil Ratzain before Vidoy. That's the opinion of the Mishnah Berurah. The Gra doesn't say that way because the Gra says if you're going to say the first Yil Ratzain, then your Vidoy is not part of Shemana Esrei. So Rabbi Glatstein, his custom was always to say the first Yil Ratzain, except erev Yom Kippur and Yom Kippur, because the opinion of the Gra is if you say the first Yilu Ratzain, then you're no longer in Shemana Esrei. The Siddur HaGra is Mava'er, that according to the Gra, saying Yilu Ratzain is Gemara HaTfilah, and it's better not to say the first Yilu Ratzain. So the Mishnah Berurah says say the first Yilu Ratzain. It gives you more flexibility in terms of what you're allowed to answer. But there is a question though, what you do Erev Yom Kippur and Yom Kippur, because maybe by saying that first Yilu Ratzain, you're, so to speak, you're not saying the Vidoy as part of the Shemana Esrei. Okay, let's just finish up. Look earlier, the dinim that you're mafsik be'emtza Kriya Shema v'hu adin hacha v'im kvar siyem hakol. Let's say you already finished the whole Shemana Esrei. Elo she'enu yachal lifsoya machmas adam shosval achar, but you can't take 3 steps back because of somebody that is behind you. Chamash goes to elsim kuf beis l'kuli am yachal afsik lanas amen. Then you can answer amen to anything. Chamaim Mordechai. The Meir Mordechai says if you finish Shemana Esrei, you're just waiting for the guy in back of you, then you could even answer Baruch Hu Rosh Shemai. Rabbi say have a great day. Bracha v'atzlacha. Kol tov.